Hello, it's Oliver here, and for the last part of this Carolina Clemson review, we're going to look at the output windows that I've made. So, the my email should be in the description, and if you want me to send you these output windows and the corresponding code window, I'd be happy to do it. But at the moment, we're just going to look at these two games. So this game on the left is Clemson at UNC, so the first game in Chapel Hill, and then to the right, the return leg in Clemson. So let's have a look at the stats and see what sort of story we can find. Kind of the most telling stat I find is one that I just added for this particular game series, which is this one here, and it's partnered down here. So I've had a lot of trouble trying to describe what the stat is, but despite it being quite simplistic, but what it is what percentage of Clemson's total points came from 2-point shots. So Clemson scored 79 points, 40.5% of those points came from 2-point shots, and 41.8% of those points came from 3-point shots. So that's what that stat is, and I find it quite interesting because it shows you how balanced an attack is, and it shows you how much a team may rely on a certain shot, but also tells you how good the opposition defense is, and we'll get to that soon. But what's interesting is how both teams kind of flip-flopped what they prioritized, what they got their most production from in the two games. So in this first game, Clemson relied, well, they didn't rely, but they were quite balanced. They were 40% from 2-point shots and approximately 40% from 3-point shots. Whereas if we come over to North Carolina, 25% of their points came from 2-point shots, which is a very low mark, and a 51% of their points came from 3-point shots, so quite a high mark. Carolina ended up winning 87-79, as we can see, and that's quite interesting because when we come over to the second game in which Clemson won 82-78, we can see that there's the exact same trend but flipped. So this time Clemson only scored 22% of their points from 2-point shots, roughly like Carolina did in the first game, and 55% of their points came from 3-point shots, like Carolina did in the first game. And then when you look at Carolina, much like Clemson, 46.2% of their points came from 2-point shots, roughly like Clemson in the first game, and only 38.5% of their shots, 38.5% of their points came from 3-point shots, which is again like roughly like Clemson in the first game. So they've literally just flipped with the team who relies on 3-point shots to get the most points winning in either game. And I thought that was quite interesting, but that's not because if we look at the second game, Clemson, shot more 3-point shots. In fact, in the first game, they shot more 3-point shots than they did in the second game. However, they were just hitting in this second game. If we look at this 2-point percentage of Clemson, they scored. They shot 33 shots in the 2-point zone and only got 9 of them at a 27% clip. So that's quite a drastic difference from the first game, which was 67. So that's a 40% difference, 40% decrease from one game to the other. Now, if we come over to the shot quality, if we look at the shot quality in the second game, we can see why Clemson has such a low 2-point shot percentage, because if we look at just their low post, for example, their low post shot quality, with shot quality meaning, if we just take this low post, for example, 10% of their shots in this area were good shots, so they weren't contested or they were open or they weren't being rushed. So only 10% of their shots in the low post were good quality shots, which is a really low number considering how top quality shots in that area usually are, because in the low post you're usually having dunks or layups, or in transition you're getting easy baskets. Despite all of that, it was only 10% good quality shots in this area for Clemson, for 6 for 21 or for 29 from that area percent shooting. So that's what's contributed to this 22% points from 2-point shots. And conversely, and related the 27% from 2-point shots in general. The other thing I want to point out from this these output windows is this quarter analysis. So if we come over to the quarter analysis for both games, what's quite remarkable is the third quarter of Clemson in this first game. They ended up losing, but it's just quite a statistical marvel that they put up with 93% shooting, 7 of 7 from 2-point range, and 86% from 3-point range off 6 from 7 shooting. Scored 33 points. North Carolina still shot really well. They had 23 points, but Clemson just had a ridiculous quarter, but they couldn't end up winning the game after such a horrific first and second quarter when they only scored 23 points in the first half. In the second game, it's quite the reverse actually. They'd had a really bad third quarter, so instead of scoring 93% from field goals, it was only 22. So Carolina in this first game did not make really good halftime adjustments. We look at the second game, they made really good halftime adjustments regarding their defense, and it really paid off in that third quarter. Clemson still won, so turns out, when Clemson don't have a good third quarter, they win. When they do, they don't, but small sample size and whatnot. Carolina had quite consistent quarters, not so much in this second game. Quite a drastic difference in the second half than to the first half. So again, that kind of gives credence to that point that they're a better second half team, or they came out from the second half better in the second game. But again, they lost anyway, so that first half really hurt them. So who won the first half in either game won the game, despite Carolina's best efforts in the second half in the second game. So that was all very confusing, but these two output windows are in the two lower pages of the review document, so you can look at them if you want for these stats. And again, if you want these output windows, I'll send them to you if you want. So let me know if that's what you are interested in. Cheers.